a platter that is between those two sides. Grab that terracotta one. Yeah. So we're gonna make platters. Thank you so much. So you're gonna make a platter to the best of your ability, and you're gonna make a plate, okay? That is like part 2 of ceramics 1, and it's my job to teach you. Now, when these plates, when you start out with this plate, it's gonna be way thicker than any dinner plate you've ever had. But by the time it dries, and by the time we turn it over and trim it gets a lot thinner, okay? So I'm gonna pass around these 2 plates. This, a Fort Hays State University student gave to me. This is a self-portrait of her. You're gonna think about what type of story you wanna tell with your plates, okay? We're doing narrative plates. So there's 2 parts to this. You're gonna make 4 plates. They crack. I'm gonna show you my cracked plates. And then you are going to decorate them, and hopefully they all survive, but if they don't, we're gonna dry them slow. We're gonna treat them with care and comfort, and I'll teach you how to do that. But you're gonna think about what type of image, what type of story you wanna tell on your plates, okay? So for me, I have anxiety around eating sometimes, so this plate just reminds me to chill out, right? And this says choose to love yourself at the bottom. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the story, and she wanted to tell the story about herself. All right. So now I weighed this, pretend I weighed this out. It's 3 pounds. Uh-oh, I need to stick it to the wheel. There we go. Pushing down. It's just a little bit more clay than you're used to maybe. I'm gonna cone it. I can feel this bat already. I'm gonna take my foot off of the wheel. It's going just the right speed. Push it back down. So when I center, I'm gonna center real wide and low. So that's a big difference than how you've centered before. But it's still the same idea, it's just more like this instead of this. So I'm pushing down. Look at how much clay this is. Would you think that you would need this much clay to make a plate? It's a lot of clay, right? But it's really true by the time you get done. So now I'm taking, this is what I'm doing. I'm centering it. It's pretty centered. I'm gonna take this part of my hand, and my hands are always working together. So this hand is gonna provide support, and I'm pushing out. Just like that. Some people do that. Some people do that with a sponge. I just do it with the side of my hand, pushing out. So I've centered it, and now I'm starting to make the size of my plate. If you make a plate, it's gotta be at least this size, okay? Between these 2 sizes, you're fabulous. If you make it a little bit bigger, cool. But you know, when clay dries, it shrinks. So plan on making it a little bit bigger than this, right? So that you at least have that size. I have enough clay here that I'm gonna make an even bigger plate. I wanna make my husband a set of dishes for our cabin in Minnesota because he loves Lord of the Rings. Do you guys know what Lord of the Rings is? Yeah, and he wants like dishes made by elves. So I'm his elf. And I made a bunch of dishes, and I altered them, and they all cracked. And I think it was because of the way I altered it, and I didn't have a waster plate. So I'm gonna make them different this time. I'm not gonna alter them. And I also put a stamp of a leaf in the middle, and that may have contributed to it cracking. So can you guys see how I'm using the side of my hand and I'm pushing out? It's still, let's stop it. I don't want it any thinner than this. So what do you think? Is that like half an inch, do you think? It's about half an inch. You don't want it any thinner than half an inch. When you're pulling it out, you can keep pulling it out until it gets to about half an inch. If you need to bring a ruler over and check, you know what? Well, Violetta, will you get a ruler too? Thank you. Let's just see if I'm right, because this might be closer to 1/4 of an inch. But this is the right thickness. This is my first demo of the day. Thank you. Oh, Violetta. Oh yeah. Yep, it's half an inch. Okay, so that's what you want. You want about half an inch thickness, and it looks about centered. Do you guys agree? So now I'm gonna get my sponge. Uh-oh, what happened to my sponge? Can you grab it for me? Thank you. All right, so you have to make it strong. Remember how we talked about compressing your base? Okay, I'm going a medium speed, slower than I would if I'd be trying, or faster than if I'd be trying to pull up the walls, but not as fast as when I centered it. And I'm really paying attention to the thinnest part, which is the middle part. Look at how many times I'm going back and forth. So I'm compressing my base. Why do we compress our base? You tell me. Why do we compress our base? So we don't want air bubbles. What happens if we don't compress our base? What will happen? Is there a heart pot in there? Can't have any water on it. There we go. Hold up the heart pot. What's that crack in the bottom of the heart pot? Hand it to me so I can get it on screen. This is, I know it doesn't look like an S crack, but this is an S crack, right? So if you have water, if you leave water on the bottom of your pot or your plate, if your plate has not been, the base has not been compressed, well, it's more likely to crack. So it's really important to compress your base. So I want you to do this at the very least 25 times, but I told my students last year to do it 50 times, and hardly any of them had any cracks. So I feel like if I tell you to do it 50 times, you'll actually do it a good solid 25 times. So I've done it just while I've been talking to you at least 15 times, I want to say. Am I right? I don't know, to be honest. Okay, so I'm doing it with my sponge. I'm compressing my base with my sponge. Now I'm going to compress my base with my rib. You can use a metal rib, but sometimes it gets stuck. It'll get stuck into the clay. So I do not prefer to use a metal rib. I like to use the wooden ribs. So I'm going to use the rounded side, and I'm applying pressure. It's thinner in the middle, and I don't like that, so I'm trying to push some clay into the middle. Ooh, look, I did that good. I think the wooden rib's the way to go. I also have rubber ribs, which, I don't know, you want to see if there's any rubber ribs in there? I think I have them at my desk. And you can use those, but I really prefer the wooden rib. And you want to do this about 25 times, back and forth. Really want to make that compression. I'm not going to do it because I value your time and we need to move on, but pretend I did it 50 times. No, okay. So now we need to take care of the rim, the lip of the plate, right? So I'm going to just push up on the side with my finger. One hand is always supporting the other. Look at how my thumbs are providing the hands with the support. I'm going to push up. I just pushed in. That's all I did with my sponge. I just pushed in. And now I'm going to push back. There's lots of different ways to make plates. Some of them are really cool. I saw a video. A student from AWC showed me a video of somebody taking a rolling pin and just going like that and using that. So if you don't like this style of plate I'm showing you, and you've got a good video to watch, show it to me because I don't want you to get bad habits. There's a lot of people out there, I don't trust everybody, right? Just because you know how to make a good video doesn't mean you know how to make a good plate. But I'm willing to, there's more than one way to do this. So if you see a good YouTube video and you want to try it, you have my blessing. So to me, this is a nice plate. This is what I like. I like to eat my spaghetti with the sauce. You know, I'm from New York. I like a little sauce. So this is kind of like a shallow bowl. That's the kind of plate I like to make. So I would spend way more time, and I will, compressing this, because I'm hoping my husband can use this in Minnesota. And the last thing I want to do is I'm going to trim the side. So just like you trimmed before, one hand is supporting the other. I'm just going to clean this up. This is not the last thing I'm going to do. If I said that, I know I said that, but that's not true. So after I trim it, before I put it in my locker, you need to have enough room to put this bat in your locker. You need to cut it off. I'm just gonna pretend to cut it off, okay? Because I still wanna compress this plate. I wanna keep it. So I'm not cutting it off. What I'm doing is I'm just keeping it from sticking to the bat, because when it dries, it's gonna dry like this. Look at how big this base is. So if you cut it, it's more likely to not get stuck and not to crack. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna write all, this is a lot. So I'm gonna write all of this somewhere for you to try to help you remember all the steps, okay? Anybody have any questions right now? Okay, you can get way fancier than the 2 plates I showed you. You can really mess with this lip. It's worth your time to research some plate styles, some plate designs. I gotta always be extra. So see how I'm using that rib? I'm supporting it from, I could have done it just as easily like this. Oh, but I like this edge. So see how I made the plate more fancier? And I kind of thinned that out a little bit. I don't want to go too thin because it's gonna shrink. And then I'll get a paper towel. Would you mind getting me a paper towel? I'll get a paper towel to smooth out this rim. And I'm gonna clean this up a little bit more. Why do we use a paper towel? Just in case, it's been a while, it's been a minute. Why do I have to make this rim round? Thank you. Remember the paper towel trick? Did I teach you the paper towel trick? Okay, so why did we have to do this? Why can't I just have a jaggedy edge?
For your top?
I mean, you can do whatever you want, if that's your aesthetic, but a rounded edge, the glaze will sit better on a rounded edge than it will on a ledge. Remember me saying that? So that's why I'm gonna round off my edge, because I like the glaze to sit nicely on there. Okay, if you guys don't have any questions, you need to, so here's the deal. You've not been on the pottery wheel for a while, right? So just make a simple pot, or maybe just practice centering some simple things first. But when you get serious about making a plate, you need to have 3 pounds of clay. So you need to weigh out 3 pounds of clay. Please treat that scale with kindness and clean it off when you're done, okay? All right, I'm gonna finish compressing this, and I'll call you over to teach you how to spray on glaze in about 5 minutes. You can stop filming.